welcome to Afro Combat, the home of African MMA. I'm your host, Dayo, and with me today, I'm going to be having Mr. Henry George. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mr. Henry is the first and current president of the Nigerian Mixed Martial Arts Federation. He was also one of the key players in the formation of the NMMAF, and he's a member of the African MMA governing body. Fun fact, he's also a Kung Fu and Karate champion. So thank you very much for being here with us, sir. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. And from your impressive background, and we already know that you're the president of the NMMAF. So I want to ask, what's interested you in the sport? Because it's not something that is widely known in Africa. So what piqued your interest about the sport? What made you go into MMA? Because we know you are a Karate and Kung Fu champion. So what exactly piqued your interest in the sport?
Okay, basically when MMA started, why they were developing MMA in Asia, in America, martial art is kind of one family. So we were aware of what was going on, looking at my background, not just as an athlete then, I was a program athlete, but also grew to the level of referee. I became World Grade B referee in WACO. WACO is the governing body for kickboxing. So, I had the opportunity of meeting the main stakeholders in sports when we talk about combat sports. So when the building of MMA started, becoming a sport, so I was privileged to get information. So we have to also start developing ours here in Nigeria.
Oh, that's amazing. That's actually very, very, because we actually need some MMA being recognized in Nigeria, because we already have other sports like basketball, football. So MMA is something that is wildly known in other parts of Europe, but in Nigeria it wasn't something that had already, come into fruition. So who were the key players alongside you also? Who were the key players that also participated in the formation of the NMMAF?
Yeah, one, we got the information of MMA. When you say MMA, mixed martial arts, the first understanding is, people having different background, coming together to fight and all that. So I had to call those people, the stakeholders here too. The masters in martial arts here in Nigeria, talking about Sifo, Silas, Barrister Haya King. I had Shian Akime, who is also a karateka, and Shian Shego, also a champion and a master. When you hear Shian, it means he's a top master. So we have to see that, look, one, the sport, in combat sports, here in Nigeria, we have taekwondo, we have karate, we have kickboxing that are already, let me say, mainstream. And most of these athletes, after competing in festival, which is the highest of medals in Nigeria, that's like Nigerian Olympics, so they don't have where else to go. They begin to retire, and they were still very strong. And so MMA gave the opportunity that, you can go pro. You can, from that age, you can even begin a new life and make it a full-time career, because most of these athletes were just employed by the Sports Council, and government were not able to employ everyone at the same time. So some of them fell apart. So we needed to create a platform that would make sure that these guys continue, in their career and begin to live their dreams.
So like you mentioned, some of the fighters are still strong enough, and nobody wants to retire early, especially when it's something you're good at. But before the formation of NMMAF, was there any recorded fight? What was MMA like in Nigeria before the formation of NMMAF?
So when you talk about NMMAF, that's the federation proper. Yeah. So, but for you to have a federation, you must have a structure that shows you're ready, and you have a sport that can be recognized as a federation. So there we had nothing like any MMA practice in Nigeria. So we were the pioneers, and we had to, organize ourselves, through a body, DFC Africa Dynamite Fighting Championship, because one, for you to be recognized by the government, you need to have a structure and also show that you have an international body. That's one of the criteria to be recognized as a federation in the country. You must affiliate to the international body. And for the international body to recognize you as an MMA body or as a sporting body in your country, you must have a structure, you must have programs to show that you are actually, involved in that sport. So for us to do that, we need to start organizing our local fighters. So I have to meet our local fighters, those top fighters. A lot of them were scared of coming into MMA because of what they see in UFC. So, but being a practitioner, being someone who has been in combat sports, so I knew those guys that were very strong. So I have to explain to them, say, look, we want to start a new dream. We need to start something that we have to inspire the young generation. So this is MMA, mixed martial arts, and we need to demonstrate that we can do it as a country. So we put those guys together, we started having fight under the umbrella of Dynamite Fighting Championship. So the first MMA event that happened in Nigeria was under DFC Africa. That was the very first fight. The second fight, we're having all that fight, and we're also training our officials, teaching them the amateur rules, teaching them what you're supposed. Then we were now granted recognition by the international. That was 2019 by the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation. By the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation. Then it was that recognition that now took us applying to the government that we are a body, this is a new sport. You need to recognize us.
Wow, that's really, really impressive. So going by this, with how far you have come, struggling to get it recognized as a governing body, as a legitimate sport that is recognized by the government. Are there any ways the NMMAF has been supporting MMA promotions, upcoming MMA promotions? Is there any way you feel you could support them more, like upcoming MMA promotions, and in states that have little to no MMA recognition? Because there are some states, I know there's Warrior FC, there's Warrior Cage, there are some MMA promotions in Sopa. There's AKO. AKO is one of the biggest private MMA promotion we know in Nigeria as it is. So what are the plans for the Federation to support upcoming MMA promotions like that in states that have little to no MMA fights or whatnot?
Yeah, that is one of our mandate, by the government, to make sure that we regulate the sport and also to grow the sport. So our job is to scout, our job is to support local organizers, it's to license local organizers, is to train local organizers, the coaches, the athletes, also put them on that career pathway that will enable them have full understanding and knowledge and grow in the sport. So we're actually out scouting for those small promotions, and we have been supporting a lot of promotions. We have been supporting a lot of states. We have been supporting a lot of states in Nigeria. So we give them coaches to train them. We give them officials when they have events to make sure that they understand the rules and also the safety aspect of the sport, because our major concern is the integrity of the sports.
Okay, that's amazing. That's actually good, because all these little promotions, they need as much help as possible. Seeing how MMA is still a pretty new sport in Nigeria that doesn't really have a lot of recognitions and a lot of support we would for other sports have. So in this case, to promote MMA, has NMMAF done any tournament? Have they hosted any tournaments as it is? Or maybe of recent, or is there any upcoming tournament that NMMAF will be hosting in the future?
We'll be hosting tournaments, we'll be hosting courses, we'll be training coaches, we'll be training officials, and we'll be also attending events. We have attended, we were in the All African Games, the last All African Games, Ghana. Nigeria featured MMA, though it was a demonstration sport. We were given 4 slots, and all the 4 athletes we took to Ghana, they all won medals.
Oh,
to tell you how strong, how fully entrenched MMA is here in Nigeria now. Then we have also, gone to Africa Championship, that's Continental Championship, Africa MMA Championship. Last year, we won silver. We went with 1 female athlete, and we won silver. We also went to the World Championship, which was done in Georgia last year, with 1 athlete. We won silver. So for a very young sport like MMA, winning a continental medal and also winning a world medal, tells how much work we have been doing, and that we understand what development of athletes or development of the sport means. Because there are so many sports that, they have spent a lot of years and They have not been up to that, going to that global stage, winning medal in that. For us, that's a very young sport, less than 4 years now. So it shows how much work we are doing, and how focused and how much we understand the work that we are asked to do. And also this year we have a whole lot of plans for our athletes, and we're planning a league. We're going to have a league where we have zones. Zones, people compete through zones, then they will now come to the center for the finals. So this will enable grassroots development, and will enable athletes to have opportunity, to train and to compete within their local level and now come to the national. And we have our ranking system. So yes, we have a ranking system where every championship you attend counts. So there's a whole lot of, first and foremost, our major job when we came in, we saw that a lot of people don't understand MMA. When I mean don't understand, because MMA is a sport that's born on social media, and a lot of people love MMA, and some of them are coming from cross sports like judo, karate, taekwondo, kung fu, kickboxing. So they come with different interpretation, different understanding of the sport, which is very different from, now MMA is a pure sport of its own. So we have been doing a lot of education, letting them understand this is the pathway, this is how this sport is, being practiced. We're looking at the international standard. It's not just fighting here in Nigeria, but being able to pick medals when you go out of this country. So it means you have to train the right way. You need to also, your technical intelligence has to be up to that world standard. So that is one of our major challenges that we're trying to make sure that people understand. So, and, it becomes so difficult, when people come from different background with the thinking or with what they feel is the right thing. Yeah. But this is our job. That's why we're here as a federation. We are to create that pathway. We are to educate them. We are to enlighten them. We are to guide them, make them understand. Yes. So Nigeria will be able to pick medals, just like we have I just said, we have won medals in the continental, winning medal in the world in young federation. It means that we know what we're doing. Because as a former program athlete and a former world karate champion, I know what it means. I know what is required to win. Not what you feel you should do, but what is needed
to be done.
Yes. So that's where we are.
Yes. You mentioned, a league coming up and the ranking system. Is there a timeline to it? And when it's finally up, for the league, the league tournaments, where can people watch it? Is there like a site yet where, people can stream the fights? For the ranking, is there like maybe a website for people to check? Because we know there's international ranking for different fighters, and you said NMMAF also establish something like that. So is there a timeline to it, like where can we stream the fight, and where can we see the ranking?
Let me tell you about our ranking. It's not like public, something you can just go for now because we're building, but this is how it works. Every championship you attend, we have categories. We have regional state championships, we have zonal championships, we have national championship, and we have international championship. When you attend a local championship sanctioned by the state, recognized by the federation, you score 8 points. When you go for a zonal championship sanctioned by the federation, there's another point. When you go for a national championship, there's another point. When you win, you score points, bigger points. Then when you go to international events, you score higher points. So it will accumulate. Then there's a grading system. When we talk about grading in MMA, we are affiliated, Nigeria is affiliated to International Mixed Martial Arts Federation, that is IMMAF. And IMMAF have a grading system, they have a progression scheme, which when you train through that scheme, you understand MMA and you understand the fundamentals of MMA. So in martial art, those who has gone through through real foundation of martial art understand that martial art is about belt system, it has belt system. White belt, yellow belt, and all that. It signifies your knowledge in the art. You understand? When you go a white belt, it shows that you're just new. Do you understand? When you go to yellow belt, it shows the level of knowledge you have acquired till you get to black belt. Yes. So that's how it goes. So MMA will have belt system, but a lot of people still don't believe that. They still have that mentality that why should I go for belt? I'm already a master. You know, this is where we have problem in Nigeria, because most of these practitioners and some of their coaches, like I said, they are coming from pro sports. They have their own understanding. So, but this is a sport, and we are here to tell you this is what is obtainable. This sport is going to the Olympics, and this is the standard. You know, and some of them don't seem to understand that this is important. They are still arguing, but we thank God a lot of people now are embracing the progression scheme.
Okay, that's amazing. That's good. And you're right, because they're coming from different type of sports. So they have a certain standard there, and they're bringing that mindset and standard into a sport that is completely different.
We understand.
So, but the fact that they are being educated, you know, to understand it better, to understand the rules and regulation is something that is very helpful. And, you know, in the long run, will also reflect positively on the federation as a whole. So, you said the federation is looking to, you know, going global and being international. That's
what we're after.
So for that, are there any partnerships you are looking forward to, like maybe partnering with other international bodies to, you know, shed more spotlight on the federation, the MMA federation? Is there like any collaboration or any partnership the federation might be looking forward to, or maybe might already have in the works? Somebody that a company, doesn't necessarily have to be an individual, like a company or, you know, another MMA promotion, or just maybe a partnership the federation is looking forward to.
You see, our duty as a federation is to create opportunity for our athletes. You know, having financial opportunity, having opportunity to, you know, travel, having opportunity to get to that world platform, that global platform. So we understand the significance of, you know, partnership, you know, because it opens doors for a lot. And for you to have a good partnership, it means that you have to make certain criteria, and you have to do certain things that will enable partners to come in. And this is where we have been focusing, ensuring that we have those fundamentals. As a federation, we have been creating and laying those solid infrastructure that will enable sponsors to come in, that will enable partners to come in, because it's going to create a very open door. And we have done this rightly. No wonder a lot of international organizations are seduced to come to Nigeria. Most of our athletes are being signed by international promotions, like the PFL, AFC is interested in Nigeria, like the UFC is official partner to IMMAF. You understand? So that's the highest global MMA global body, UFC. So you can see that we are strategic. Even our affiliation to IMMAF, we are strategic, because this is where we want to channel our athletes to. So we have to create that pipeline. We have to create that opportunity. So we are already doing that. I don't know. I don't need to make an official announcement, but I'm telling you now that before the last quarter of this year, we are going to have PFL touch Nigeria.
Ooh,
so it means that we have been doing a lot of work. You understand? Our duty is to ensure that we open these doors for this athlete. Let me tell you, as a program athlete, or also as an official, as an international referee, you know, I took, as a man that have lived different layers of the sport, as an athlete, as a coach. I'm an NIS trained coach. I was trained by Yemi Teller. You know Yemi Teller. So I'm an NIS trained coach, as a world referee, certified referee, African referee, world referee. In kickboxing, I don't think in Nigeria anybody still holds the highest ranking in kickboxing officiating in Nigeria, world license. I'm the highest team. Now nobody has gotten to that stage. So I understand what we need to make our athletes improve, to make our athletes to be seen in the world. So we took steps that matters. That was why we got the recognition, and we were able to pull the world president to Nigeria to talk to our ministry, to talk to the minister. You need to recognize MMA. So these were strategic moves. Now we have a federation in Nigeria. So what I'm saying is that we understand what it takes to pull these global organizations. So they are well seduced with Nigeria. Every day they are signing Nigerian athletes now, because we are putting them in the right path. So this is what we are doing as a federation. We are laying this foundation, because we are the pioneers of this federation. So we need to lay solid infrastructure, solid foundation for our athletes, and this is what we are doing. So our work is different from an existing federation that have stayed 20 years, 30 years. This is a new federation. So what we are doing creating that institutional recognitions. Now we just had a police game. For the first time, MMA went as a scoring sport, which we are very grateful to the just past IG for approving MMA. So this is opportunity for those practitioners, those officers who are practitioners of MMA. Now they have a sense of belonging. When they win, they know they can gain something from MMA. So these are open doors. These are strategic things we'll be doing, and we're doing more.
That's very impressive. That's very impressive. It seems like the Federation has a whole lot of plan for fighters in Nigeria. That is very, very impressive. Yeah. So with these plans in mind, how does the Federation plan on securing funding, long-term sponsorship deals? How do they plan on securing funding? Because this kind of plans, you need a lot of funding to back it up. So what are the plans to secure funding for these plans, wide plans that we have?
Yes, you see, there's so much to do about funding. Our country, one of the problems of sport here is funding. But thank God for the current administration of our President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I'm talking about Ahmed Tinubu, President, and the Sports Commission, the leadership of the Sports Commission. A lot is being put in place to change the narrative, But as a federation also, we are doing a lot to make sure that we secure partnership, with these organizations I'm talking about, because this is what will create and prove our credibility for commercial partnership, that other organizations, other companies within, we want to partner. By the time they see a standard event, they now begin to see the prospect in MMA. They now begin to see. So all these are things that, we are strategically positioning that will, open doors for strong sponsorship of our fighters, where fighters begin to approach individually, can approach company, okay, I'm an athlete, this is my position, this is my ranking, I want you to support me, I want you to sponsor me. And they'll be glad because they have seen how this sport is, growing, and the kind of, partnership that we have. So we're focusing on those strategic partnerships that, that will ignite big sponsorship. So these are what we are doing to increase funding to the sport.
You just explained we need sponsorship, we need, when the international committee sees that MMA is doing well in Africa, is something they would want to support. In Nigeria in particular, is something they want to support. You mentioned the fact that there are different fighters from other sports coming into MMA, so they might have their own ideologies, their rules and regulations, and that's why it might be a problem when they come into MMA. So aside that, are there any other challenges that the Federation is facing, and how have they been able to tackle them?
Yeah, what if you ask me, the major challenge for us is convincing these athletes, because they have coaches from their cross sports, making them understand, because it's not about winning local fight here. By next month, which is April, we're going to African Championship. We want to be able to win medals. You can be the best fighter here, but can you win your first fight when you go outside Nigeria, in the country? And this sport is going to the Olympics very soon. And one of our major aims, like when we came in, we promised that we want Nigeria to pick medal in the world stage, that we're going to deliver that, which we have done, picking silver medal in the World Championship last year. But the Olympics is what we are eyeing. So for us to achieve this, they need to have a technical understanding. Their technical intelligence need to be very high. Fighting has changed, has gone scientific. So it's not about what you think, it's about how far the world has gone in terms of, technical wise, from technical standpoint. So this is one of our major challenge, but we are trying our best. I thank God for the kind of board I have. My team, my vice president, Mario Wani, has been so wonderful. We have Silas, we have Shegu Abode, and many others, and the technical director has been doing a very wonderful work trying to put this progression scheme across to the athletes. So this is one of our major issue, one of our major challenge, letting these athletes understand that it's not just about grappling, You need to understand this is the direction that the world is going. So we'll be able to pick the medal when we get to the Olympics.
Yes, that's true. That's very, very true. Because it's not just by winning fights locally, it's by
No, no, no.
winning, on the global scale, even outside the
Yeah.
country. And you mentioned, the fighters understanding the real point of the sports and, their coaches. But how do you scout for new fighters? Because you just mentioned they're talking to fighters and, trying to convince them. So how does the federation scout for new fighters? Do they have people who go to some of these matches, some of these tournaments and watch them fight? But how does the NMMAF scout for new fighters?
Yeah, just like every other federation, we organize seminars, we organize programs. Like we're having in next month, we're having novice championship in Lagos. The novice championship is where we give opportunity for fighters to come, fighters from any background. You're not scared you're meeting someone that is much higher than you. You know, you're fighting with people with the same level of skill set. So we create opportunities for them to come. So also a lot of people are involved, in promotional fights. So we are always there, making present known. The highest of it is as a federation. It means the sport has gone to all states. So activities are happening, people are getting involved. So we are reaching out.
That's really good. It seems the federation has a whole lot of things planned out. The fact that PFL Africa might be coming to Nigeria before the end of this year is already...
I don't want to make any formal announcement.
Okay, yes. Unofficial announcement. Unofficial. So what should we be expecting from the federation moving forward, like in this coming years? Because we can see there is a lot of plans in place. So what more can we expect from the federation moving forward?
Yeah, like our major aim is to show that, like I said, laying a very strong foundation for the sport in Nigeria. And so that we'll be able to pick medals. This has been it. Because it's not about the politics. Yes, there's politics everywhere. People, no matter what you do, people will think you're not. But like I've told you, there's already a score sheet. We already have a continental medal. We already have one of all African games. We already have one of World Championship for a young federation. So that one alone speaks for, volume of what we have done. So there's a whole lot we have in mind. Next month, we're going for the African Championship. So we're working seriously. We're preparing our athletes, and they're working seriously to ensure that they make our country proud.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for taking out the time to come here with us. Thank you for your continued leadership. Thank you. We appreciate you so much for your time, and we wish your team success to be successful in whatever it is they do, for the plans ahead, that the federation goes global as we really want it to. So thank you so much. On behalf of Afro Combat, we have a little package here for you for honoring us with your time and your leadership. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Wow. So on behalf of the federation, I want to say thank you, and I also want to encourage you to continue to support combat sports, continue to support MMA. We have so much talented athletes in this country, and we also need the media to help, push their effort, put their effort before the eyes of the cameras. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There you have it, fight fans. I hope this session was as insightful and enjoyable for you as it was for me. For more content and videos like this, follow and subscribe to us on all social media platforms at afrocombat.com. Until next time, bye.